Good. We're good to go. So welcome. This is on 2020 Guide to Google Maps. I'm excited that you're here. I know you're busy. If you're an owner of a basement waterproofing company or foundation repair, there's a million things you could be doing. I think you probably understand the value of Google Maps. This is a series. We do one a month, and we cover the important areas that can really impact your business. This is our digital dominance blueprint. We strive to just dominate the internet for our clients. We know that if we do our job well, your business is positioned well for a very long time. And you know how important the internet is. So the first area we start is you got to have a converting website. You could rank #1 for all the keywords and have amazing SEO. But if your website doesn't convert people into a lead, then that's, you're missing out. Someone on this webinar, I think he has an amazing converting website. Picture of him, call me, text me, calls to action, do a great job with that. SEO, contractors love SEO because, hey, that's where you get the free leads, so to speak. So everyone likes those. Google Ads, yeah, so important to have. If you're going to really grow your company, it can cost a lot. So it's absolutely critical that you do it right. And then Facebook ads, we've done Facebook ads on and off for several years. We're now at the point that we're really able to improve the quality of those Facebook ads, and they come in significantly lower than Google ads. So if you're really going to dominate your presence online, Facebook is a major player in this space. And then customer reviews, absolutely critical. I'm guessing, I think maybe 30 to 40% of companies actually have I like to use the word culture, a culture where they continue to get customer reviews, where someone in that company has championed that cause, but then all the players are getting customer reviews. So we're going to talk about that some more. Nurture is absolutely critical. Too many companies, they get a phone call, they book a lead, and they go run the appointment, they leave an estimate, and then that's the end of it. And they're hoping they're going to call back, leaving a lot of business on the table there. Social media is important. No one wants to be the abandoned house with boards up and the grass is 18 inches long and people don't even like to walk in front of it. I see a lot of companies out there, they have a Facebook page and they have some other things, but they haven't posted on Facebook since March of 2018. And you wonder, hey, did something happen? Where are they? It's best to be commenting after every single review and to be posting on a regular basis, because customers feel safer and more comfortable with companies that are active on social. And then tracking is absolutely critical. I have a friend that does some businesses, and he made a comment a couple of years ago, oh yeah, you can never really, you guys do SEO, you can't really track what you do. I was like, what do you, I didn't really understand what he meant. So I had to ask him, what are you talking about? It's well, you do all that stuff, but you don't really know. It's no, that's not true anymore. When you do call tracking, you know exactly where every call is coming from. You know exactly, you have Google Ads, you have your listing, your Google Maps section, you have your organic section, so you know where what's working and what's not working. Hey, I wanted to, I'm using my phone here for chat. I'm going to give you my cell phone number. And if you have a question, text me. And feel free to interrupt me. I'm not going to promise that I'm going to remember to see my phone, but the more interactive that we can go here, the better off. So my cell phone, if you have a pen handy, let's write this down, 630-779-2552. 630-779-2552. If you have a question, feel free to send it. I'll do my best. And if you have a question, there's probably others that have a question as well. Okay, so in light of this important, cool stuff that we're going to cover, I would ask you if you could turn your phones off, turn your Facebook page off, because in the next 45 minutes, I really want to give you some great information, and I want you to be able to get more of these organic leads. And we've been doing this for a long time. Like, who am I and why should you listen? I'm the owner and founder of Rainmaker Internet Marketing and Rainmaker for Contractors. Almost all of our business really is in the basement waterproofing and foundation repair space. Before this, I owned a waterproofing company for 15 years in the Chicagoland area. It's how I learned internet. I spent my own money figuring out internet. I didn't experiment with other people's money. We are a premier Google partner, which only the top 4% of all Google partners get that status. Co-author of Intro to Marketing Automation. I've been involved with the Basement Health Association for 12 years now. I'm the former president. And probably what's most important to you, again, what I said is we specialize in basement waterproofing and foundation repair. So I know the business, and I know internet marketing. And when you put those two together and you get everything to work together, it's a beautiful thing. Here's a picture of the Basement Health Association. The board, we have an annual luncheon at Las Vegas. And I've been flown out to Google. They paid for it on 3 different occasions, which is a beautiful thing. There's John with the cool glasses. John actually worked with me in the waterproofing company. We've worked together for, I don't know, 12, 13 years, 14 years, something like that. So John is our senior account manager and talks to clients on a regular basis. All right, so do Google Maps matter? The mindset that I really want to get you out of, in case you have this, is if you think that, oh, you know, I have my Google listing, I know how to log into it, I have my name, address, phone number, I have some photos. Yeah, on occasion I get some reviews. If you think, yeah, that's all that's there, yeah, it is what it is, I really want to, you know, ask you to reconsider with this new information and like really apply what we're giving and see if you can get more leads, more free leads, if we can call them, because they are organic leads. We've learned that about 44% of the clicks and the calls that contractors get are from the map section. So you have the ads. This shows the Google local service. Forget about that one. Typically in our space, you have the four Google ads. Then you have the map section. And then what we call under there is the 3-pack. The map and the 3-pack go together. And then underneath, I'm referring to it as the organic section. I'm going to try to keep it simple. So 44% we're saying are coming from the map section. What's from Google? So yes, I mean, that's huge. Imagine 44% of your leads that are coming from Google just from the map section. This is a small section of a dashboard that we provide our clients, and I talked about how we do tracking of leads. So, you know, Google Ads for this customer, this is last month. They got 71 calls from Google Ads, but they got 64 calls from their Google My Business, which is the map section, and then 13 from Google Organic. So that is a ton of calls. And of course, we know what people are spending on Google Ads. Like, they're spending a lot of money. So the more you can do, the more you can get from Google Maps, the better off you are. So yes, Google Maps drives a ton of traffic, and you can't just rely on pay-per-click. Pay-per-click, in my opinion, there's a few different ways to look at it. I used to look at it as, wow, this is kind of like the rich, lazy person's way to get internet leads. I always like to, I just think like efficiency. I want to work through efficiency. So if someone's paying like, you know, $5,000 for Google Ads, if they could channel some of that money to SEO, they're going to get a way better return for their money. And typically people trust the local SEO and the organic section more than they do ads. And a lot of times people who are clicking ads, they're just clicking the ads and they're really shopping. They're in shop mode. So Google Maps, it's a huge thing, and there are things that you can do. So I want to be able to empower you, or, you know, please take notes and give them to your agency, or ask them, say, hey, are you doing this? Are you doing that? So biggest changes that we've seen in with Google in regards to the map section. The first one is really an old change, but I put it up there for a reason. So I kind of know who is on this webinar, and I know that several of you have been in this business like as long as I have, which I think is like 25 years, and some longer. So you know what I'm talking about when I refer to the 7-pack. So a few years ago, there were 7 listings under the map section, and then it got reduced to 3. So why would Google reduce it from 7 to 3? Because they're pushing people to the ads. They want to make more money, right? Google says don't be evil, but they sure are good at making a lot of money. Not that it's evil to make money. So they're squeezing that local space, and now there's only 3. So second thing I have highlighted is Google is serving paid ads in the map results. We talk about a 3-pack, but really there's 4. And the reason why there's 4 is because if you're running Google Ads, Google allows you to have an ad running in the very first listing under the map. And it will say ad in the smallest little box if you can imagine, but that is an ad. So Google is just expanding their selling of their ads. And in November of last year, 2019, Google's listings are more geographical based. Now, they've always been, right? I've taught at conferences, and people often ask, I'm frustrated. I want to show up in a city, 40 miles away from my city. How do I do that? In a few years ago, it's very much industry based. Like, for example, if you were, if you Google like coffee, New York City, or coffee shop, boy, like you better be one of the biggest Starbucks in the world to be in that top 3. Or like the dry cleaners industry, that was super, super tight. And the contractors, Google gave them a little bit more space to rank. But now they've got even tighter. And you know why? Because Google wants to push people to ads, but there's still ways to rank in the map section, which we're covering. And then Google Local Services ads are live in most markets. A lot of waterproofers do not do, the majority of them do not do anything with Google Local ads. Sometimes waterproofers offer different services, and when Google is offering leads through their ad service, they'll have a listing there. So I'm not going to cover that, that's just another change. Google's always trying to invade all the industries, as we've seen elsewhere. So Google says since 2015, they have reduced 70% of the fake Google Maps listings. So this is an area that's been super spammed. People have created fake locations, on and on. So that's a big improvement, and Google does try to improve that. They're trying to make it cleaner. They want a reliable source. What that does is it squeezes out competition for Google. Like if Bing were to create a better search engine platform and it's more trustworthy, then people are going to go to Bing. Google doesn't want that because they'll lose ads. So they're continuing to try to clean up. Sometimes I get asked, we have a competitor that they have a bunch of fake listings. Like, what's with that? I have seen some listings sort of grandfathered in, and you've done your research and you see that it's like a former sales rep's house, and on the map it shows a tree or something, right? Not a lot you can do about that. Hopefully Google will phase that out. Quite honestly, if the contractor is really smart and it's semi-right, they might want to build around that. But as far as you're concerned, if you have a competitor that's done that, there's not a lot you could do. I may get to it a little bit on how to set up a second location that's legit in this, or I'm happy to have a conversation offline with you on some of the things you could do, how to legitimately set up a second location in the area that you want to serve better. So a question, what could be hurting your rankings in the map section? So we talked about the first one. Your office is way too far away from the city you want to serve. And I talked to someone from Alabama yesterday, and they said they were naming cities, and I didn't really follow where geographically it was, but I got the impression the city they wanted to do business in was probably like an hour and a half away, and they're probably not going to show up in that section. And so we did have that conversation about possibly a second office. Just briefly, I'll say, in a competitive industry, like, well, then how long would it take to really establish a presence and kind of get showing up in the top 3 in like a bigger city somewhere else? It's hard to say. Sometimes I get like, tell me how many leads we're going to get, and I'm not going to promise you something I can't deliver on. So, but if it's a competitive market, generally speaking, it's about 8 to 14 months. That's how long it takes to all the steps that we have to do to kind of fight in there. Now, I can't really comment on, are the other competitors like doing something similar, or do they have their legitimate business and they're doing tons of good SEO? We can pretty much, I feel like we could outsmart anybody for SEO just because, it's what we do. It's what we're passionate about. All right, second thing, did you try to spam Google with fake locations? I'm guessing some people on this webinar have done that in the past. Maybe, it gets like, 7 to 10 years ago, you saw these people establishing offices, and it's like, dang, like everywhere I'm looking, they have these offices. I'm going to do that. And so maybe you ask your mom or something to, hey, can I use your address to set up a location? I showed you that Google is really trying to eliminate that stuff. They will continue to try to eliminate these fake listings. They are verifying more and more. Through COVID, people lost their listings. On occasion, Google takes down a legitimate listing just because something looks suspicious in their algorithm. It's not someone like Google does not do like manual searches. Like they program computers how to think like a person, and they go through stuff. Sometimes things get flagged that they shouldn't get flagged, and then you have to protest it. We have had Google ask us to set up an appointment with the owner to have a live camera walkthrough, like they send a link to a phone and the person's got to, walk around their building starting on the outside, and Google's looking for signage. Is there a sign there? Can a customer come in? Is there a real address? When they go in, does it look like an office? Is there an employee there? That's what Google's looking for to confirm that it's a real office. So inconsistent name, address, and phone number profile. Call that in the SEO world NAP, name, address, phone number. That's really important, often gets overlooked when we take over accounts. I would say at least 80%, maybe 90% of the time we see, like we just call it, it's like a rat's nest. It's like a bunch of wires wound up in a ball. And what you have is old addresses, old phone numbers that don't work, and you go over these different listings. And it's all messed up. And for local SEO, what you have to do is untangle that. You have to you have to get the right name, address, phone number, and description in every single listing all over the internet. So if it's not right, it could be hurting you. And then another thing that we see is people try to like spam Google with, like, let's say your company name is ABC Waterproofing. But then when you create your Google listing, you put in ABC New York City basement waterproofing. And you're kind of keyword stuffing the city in there to see if you're going to rank better for like New York City basement waterproofing. Well, Google looks at your company name and your website and these other listings and like, so that looks spammy. So they don't, when they see you doing something spammy, they're going to reduce your listings. And then reviews are, they're absolutely critical. I'm going to cover that pretty soon. So we have a proven formula that works for getting ranked in the 3-pack. And we do have some ninja tricks. I might tell you about 1 or 2 of them, and people like to hear those things, but the majority of time, if you stick to the basics like everything, when you really apply the basics, not talk about them, but actually do them and really clean up the basics, that almost always does the trick. So we certainly start with the basics. So first one, pretty basic. Claim and optimize your Google listing. There's a lot of little details with that, and I'll give you a tip that people overlook, and it's pretty easy to do. So I'm guessing everyone on this webinar has a login to their Google listing. And if not, their agency does, their marketing agency does. I recommend that you have it and you have it handy, and I'll get to like point number 5. I think to upload photos, and I'll show you a couple things. But keep your, don't play with your name. Don't like keyword stuff, your name. Like that should be consistent. Your name, address, phone number needs to be consistent. Add your web address. It should be on every single page on your website. Local, we like local numbers, over 800 numbers. I've talked to plenty of contractors that like, you don't understand. We're covering 5 states. 800 numbers work better. If you have a unique situation, fine, no problem, and you can put an 800 number in your Google listing, which is fine. Generally speaking, though, if you're not one of those people that covers, this huge area, stick to the local phone number. No PO addresses, PO boxes, or UPS stores. But photos is something you should try to keep fresh. So photos are important to add to your Google listing for several reasons. One is when you add fresh content, Google likes that in their Google listing. 2 is you can tag those photos. There's 3 different ways to tag a photo. You have the title tag and the alt tag and then the description. And yes, you can put your keywords in there. That's the time you can kind of be labeling keywords that are keyword rich for your industry. But something often overlooked for websites is people don't want canned photos. If you're a camera shy person, it's okay. Like I'm doing a webinar now, but I'm not the typical person that's going to jump in front of a camera. But people want to see you. They don't want to see like a fake stock photo that they've seen on 10 other websites. And they want to see your staff. If you don't have shirts, buy a shirt and put them in a uniform and take a picture and put it on their website, and take a picture of your trucks and take a picture of some jobs, some before and some after, and take a picture of a happy customer with their crew. And if you feel talented, do a quick interview and set it up in the sale and say, hey, if we do a great job here, would you give me a quick 60-second video that I could put on our website or our social post, and just give an honest feedback to people of how we did. Like all those things help with your Google listing, and it also helps with conversion. So many of these things, like they spill into, yes, it's good for SEO, but yes, it's also good for conversions. And yes, it's good for local SEO. There's all different strategies, and they all kind of work together. And of course, the super basic one is list your hours. People look at that stuff and the services that you offer. In the Google listing, you get 9 different categories you could pick. They're only going to show one, but you can relate to 9 different ones. Make sure that you stick to your industry. Don't say things that you don't do just to get a showing. It's not going to help you. So when you log into your Google listing, a couple things. It's very easy to add photos. Click the plus button. You go to photos on the left. Google's interface is very user-friendly. And in the blue, you just add the photo. So it's easy to do. Another thing you'll want to look at while you're in there is you're going to want to look at insights, how many calls came from there, how many requested directions, and then how many actually went to your website from there. Sometimes I'm asked, like, what's a good, like how many visits should we have? And that it's all going to vary. It's going to vary based on the size of your city, and then based on waterproofing. Of course, it's going to vary with the weather. So having a track record of the past and comparing it to yourself would probably be your best option there. All right, Google My Business Best Practices. I covered that one. Update photos and add them on a regular basis. Tag them if you feel you can do that, or ask your agency to do it. So you could put Google Post in that listing. You could put coupons in there. We like to put coupons. We like to put posts. respond to every review. This is a strategy that's a really good strategy, and it's often overlooked. And that is comment on every single review, good or bad, comment on it, especially the good ones. You know, people always jump, no, I shouldn't say that. People usually jump in on the negative ones, but even on the good ones, to say, hey, and don't be canned. Don't say the same thing for every single client. You know, say on the positive ones, oh, thanks so much for the great review. It's a pleasure to provide basement waterproofing, and I love your dog, Fido. So cute. Make it fresh, make it real. And then answer questions that get posted. Hopefully you get questions posted to your Google listing, because you can kind of steer how the customer views your company with those questions and with those answers. So definitely answer questions when you get questions posted. Every time something happens on your Google listing, you should get an email. So that's how you know when someone posted something. All right, I want to hit on this topic of name, address, phone number. I'm going to back up a little bit because, you know, what's the citation? Citation and directory listing is a phrase that sometimes gets intermixed. So back in the olden days, there was Yellow Pages primarily as the source for how to find a company. And a lot of cities have like 3 different Yellow Page books. So when that passed and the internet got replaced, you went from, you know, one primary Yellow Page book to thousands of directory listings. It's best to focus on about the top 40, the most important ones. But as you get that foundation and you get the most important ones right, then it spreads. This map I'm going to refer to on the right lower side of the screen. So again, it's really important to have your name, address, phone number, consistency, and it's good to eliminate duplicate listings and incorrect business information. I think we cover an audit here. I think we'll walk you through here. So the first place you want to start really is your Google listing. Get that, we covered that earlier. And then the second place for citations are these aggregators. So what is an aggregator? It pushes it out to other places. So these 4 main aggregators will push out your listing to over 300 citations. I'm referring back to this photo on the bottom right. You could see all these different arrows, and once you have citation listed, a lot of times someone else is going to take that information, they're going to send it over to this place, and then it's going to go to that place. And you kind of need to just be consistent and find that. And if you ever move locations, wow, like you got to redo all that stuff. And using the aggregators, like you could set up an account with these folks, which we've done, or there's some tools that you could use, some services that interact with these people that tend to give you a little bit faster result, or you do a combination of these. So here are the tools that interact with citations and the major, I talked about a top 40 and the aggregators. So Bright Local, White Spark, Advice Local, Yuxt, and Moz Local. We've used 4 out of these 5, like a lot. 2 or 3 of them we've used, you know, someone's in there almost every day. So citations, I think we could show you a page like this is, for example, this is Bright Local. And in Bright Local, they give you a dashboard of your citations. It's a great tool. They cover a lot of different things. So they give you a citation score, and they tell you how many they found, how many they didn't find, how many are correct, how many have errors still. Of course, you could pay them, like for that one. In theory, you could say, hey, I want you to fix that one. And so then you buy some credits from Bright Local and you say, hey, go fix it. It doesn't always happen. They run into things. Sometimes the various directories, they want owner verification. Sometimes they're going to send a card. Sometimes no one's at the steering wheel and no one's picking up the phone, and no one's answering the forms. So it doesn't always happen, and it's hard. It's something you got to stay with and you got to stay on. It can be very laborious. So citations, a best practice is to manually claim and optimize your Google business. We talked about that one. Use the aggregators. and this one gets overlooked sometimes. You have to do an audit. So any kind of name you've ever used, any address you've ever lived at or been associated with your company, and any phone number, you have to do a search for those, and you have to see if there's any listings that have that. So tools like Bright Local and Citation Finder, White Spark, those are all tools that you could use to do this. We have someone on our staff after this that specializes in fixing these citations. So then after you do all that, then you really want to get in the niche listings. This is just going to give you another boost. You know, that perhaps a frustrating thing about internet marketing is there's no magic wand. You know, there's no, like, I'm not sure if I want to, but I can't really. I can't come to this webinar and say, like, hey, I'm going to give you one magic secret and it's just going to outrank all your competition. With internet marketing, it's 1,000 little things. You've got to be so detail oriented. You have to play with your head up. You have to care. You have to be passionate. It's the only way that you're going to do well for yourself if you're doing this, or for us as we serve our clients. The third thing is get like a lot of reviews. So I'm sure you've heard the stat that 90% of customers are looking at reviews before they pick up the phone. Having been in this industry, I remember, you know, it would rain heavy and the phone would just go off the hook. And people, they used to largely get, you know, 3 estimates and then pick the one that they liked. And although some people do that today, what's different is people are investing a lot of time into researching companies before they pick up the phone call. And the question of why, like, why are people able to do this? Because it's so easy, because you could just fly through sites and look at the reviews, and you could read the reviews, and you could look at the other reviews and read those. And, ooh, that review is amazing, and I like this company. So you want to get reviews. So here's a strategy for driving consistent reviews. So there's a lot of tools that you could use. I think, like, here's some tools. I'll come back to that slide, but here's some tools, and I think I found 6 other companies. So Nearby Now is popular, Bird Eyes, very popular as well. Tools are great. They're very similar. They kind of do the same thing. Let's see. Okay, so a question came in. If you see a lot of like fake reviews from your competitors, like, it gets frustrating because you know, like, your competitors have tons of reviews, but you know they're fake. I've been asked that many times before, and I've looked into it. Sometimes they're not fake. Sometimes they are. You don't always know. Clearly, they look coached at times, where the sales rep is saying, say this, do this, mention my name, those kind of things. So the best thing that you could do is really channel that energy into getting a lot of reviews yourself. It's the best thing you could do. Like, an advanced strategy is, like, on our staff, we have a couple people that have very high level local guide ratings. And a local guide is someone that can give Google feedback, and the higher level that you have, the more that Google trusts you. We had a client, I talked to them 4 weeks ago, and then we talked 3 weeks ago to follow up. He said, hey, by the way, is that review still there? What we did is we went on that review and we asked Google to review it, and we said, this review is fake. It's not valid. And then Google took it down. I told the client 4 weeks ago, I said, hey, it's very, very difficult to get a review removed. We'll do this strategy. We'll flag it on our side. And by the way, we're friends with a lot of other agencies that have a very high Google local guide as well. And sometimes we work towards our clients on a mutual behalf. To, like, when you have a lot of people that are local guides and are telling Google you need to do this, then they tend to listen. But at my expectation, I tell the clients, it's very, very difficult to get reviews taken down. It is. I mean, we've called Google 1,000 times. Just, this is ridiculous, like, you can't, and they'll say, sorry, it doesn't violate our rules. I mean, if it's like a former employee or something, and they're disgruntled, like Google will take that down. But if you could channel your energies into getting a lot of reviews, you're not going to please everybody. You're just not. So the more that you could bury that, one in every 20 customers that complained about they found a cigarette butt on the front lawn, even though you did an amazing job, or whatever it is. Usually it's the absentee homeowner that on the last day they're like, wow, it's not what I'm thinking. So that's what I would say to that one. Thanks for that question. All right, so this is on-page optimization. I mentioned earlier your name, address, phone number should be on every single page. There's this thing called schema markup if you have a WordPress website. There's a few tools that you could use that will help you put schema markup on every page, including your blogs and so on, excuse me. So yes, they should go on every single page. All right, so off-page SEO is important. So what you do, there's your website and all that kind of stuff, but then another question's coming in. Like what you do outside of your website. Okay. I think that question got sent as I answered it about schema markup. Just every single page should have schema markup. Let's see. So optimize your listing, citations, get a lot of reviews, and get authoritative links back to your website. And then strategic content syndication is kind of a higher level strategy of SEO that I want to talk on. Let me go back for a second here. I want to make sure I cover something. Okay. So reviews, links. Links I typically don't find contractors like doing, building authoritative links. It's typically an agency that does that kind of lifting, so to speak. But having a simple blog doesn't cut it. Creating blogs that are content rich, that are really helpful, those can be good. Internal and external links, title tag, H1 tag, good pictures are tagged, highlighting of important questions or comments or features, that helps. A lot of times that's not done in our industry. So we focus on signals. I want to bring your attention to this chart. It says Moz Local SEO Survey. So Moz is an extremely respected SEO tool company. They do annual conferences and charge a lot of money. They have a great company, and so for many years they sent a survey out to local SEO experts throughout the country. And they asked questions like, in your opinion, what are the biggest ranking factors? Like, what's the magic wand, so to speak? What gives the greatest impact to get higher in the rankings in the organic section? And here's the results. In this first column, we have, Google My Business signals. You have link signals. So Google My Business, that's 25%. Link signals, 17%. Review signals, 15%. On-page signals, 14%. We've often used this survey as a guide for our work. So we try to hit all these areas. And we always have multiple plans going forward with our clients. So if Google happens to change their strategy and maybe they rank lower one or two strategies, well, you still have like 5 other strategies that are going to push you forward. And then we also modify as Google modifies. And we're always doing best practice stuff. So, but last thing I'll say about this is the word signals. So signals is something that's slightly different, and people don't talk a lot about signals much, but it's sort of where you get mentioned. It doesn't always have to be a link. Like, 10 years ago, before Google got smart, it was like, well, how many links do you have? The more links, the better. But signals is a much more sophisticated way for Google's algorithm to look at it. And then on the left, when it comes to content, Google, they don't typically tip their hat a lot. and giving their information on what's going to help SEO, like they kind of want you to figure it out. But they did come out with this EAT acronym. So EAT stands for expertise, authority, and trust. And the more your content has the EAT acronym involved in it, the better it will do for your website, the better it will do for your ranking. So whoever wrote the content, does it have expertise in it? And then is it written in such a way where it's structured to have media-rich content in it? Is it authoritative? Is like who's carrying it? Can you get it on ABC or CBS or Fox? I mean, if they're covering it the way that our world is media dominated, Google's going to give you more credit for getting it onto that kind of a platform. And then trust, is there trust involved? Like, what's the intent of the content? Is the intent to try to sell somebody? Is the intent to try to educate them? Is it helpful content? Are you boxing them in so that they have to stay on their website? Are you offering links that they can go somewhere else if they want to, or if it's helpful to them? Like, Google looks at the intent of it. And then the more you have the EAT, the better off that it will do for your website. I find this is, it might look like, what the hell is that, right? Like freshman year biology in high school or something, right? But, I said there's no magic wands, and here's just a bunch of them. Here's just a bunch of little things that matter. So on the left, the very left column is content. Freshness is going to be adding stuff to your content, to your website. A couple of years ago, like mobile is really important in the second column for architect. Speed is a new, really important topic. It's got to be 3 seconds or less. Otherwise, Google's going to penalize. They're going to if you're not providing a good user experience. Then the other thing is that you get an abandon rate, because we all had some form or level of ADD. We're not going to wait. It's like, oh, this site isn't loading fast, I'm gone. But Google doesn't value that as much. Like structure and navigation and some technical stuff like title tags and descriptions. I want to draw your attention to the purple one, second one down, engagement. Engagement is often overlooked. As far as value, it should have a really big box, because if you have content that's highly engaged, Google's going to notice that, and they're going to value that. Time on site, where you go from that page, those things matter. Some people will put a video on the page just to get a kind of a longer stay rate. Having links, having pictures. Where they go next is a big one. So engagement, and is there a big bounce rate where they go there like, this isn't what I'm looking for, I'm out of here, and they go back. So engagement's important. If you have a very engaging site and page and content, it's going to help your ranking. So much is local engaged. Some toxins on the top right, when you have schemes where you're trading links with other companies. Google's gotten really smart with figuring that stuff out. And then some emerging fields, voice search. We're actively doing things to help our clients with voice search. It's a little thing. I don't think it's a big thing right now. We have some friends that they'll say like, hey, Alexa, order more dog food. Those kind of things. That's like a...
I can't connect to your Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's funny.
You can find setup instructions in the help section of your Alexa app.
Thanks, Alexa. I'll have to hook that up. I usually use Google around here. But for basement waterproofing, all the stats say that people like to be searching. And as you know, basement waterproofing, it's a big fix. It's expensive, so people want to pay attention to who they're calling. But if there's a way to get 1, 2, 3 leads more per month, then that's great. Video is huge. The two I'll point out is voice and video. And the one that's not on here really is artificial intelligence. Obviously, that's something that Google is doing with their algorithm to get really smart. So here's some, I'm just going to cover a couple of things here. Again, we have expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. Does it meet those qualities? And that's kind of their artificial intelligence is kind of looking at that content with those eyes. And then, who created it? Google's very good at figuring out authorship. They'll be able to identify who's the original author of this. And then what do we know about that author? Oh, okay, they're the owner of the company. Oh, okay, this is a big website. This is a good website. This is a lot of pages, a lot of content. We're going to give them more credit for that. And website reputation, the links. Links are, that's a whole topic in and of itself, but boy, we often see links and link structure and anchor text not done well. Like they're all going to the home page, or that an anchor text is the word that you click on a page that takes you somewhere else. Google pays attention to the word that has to be clicked. So contact us is not a good anchor text. I won't cover that. Special local SEO ranking factors. So 3 big ones are proximity, which we covered. Where's your company versus where they're searching, and that, Google's got a different algorithm if you're doing a search for your office, and then you jump in your car and you do a search. Now they kind of know where you are and where the company's based on that, and then you go home and you do a search, and that's different too. Relevance, how relevant is your search based on what the website shows? And then preeminence. Does it have that expertise, authority, and trustworthiness? Are there good links, signals that are happening? So here is here's like a syndicated article that we posted, and for our clients we show these links that we get. These are distribution links that we're able to get some really big recognized and authoritative link signals that really help push the ranking inside Google Maps. It's a little bit of a ninja trick. We even have a dashboard like how many signals we can get from one article when we do everything right. We have the links in the right place, inbound, outbound, follow, no follow, images, H1, H2, H3 tags, title tag. When all that is in place, we're seeing like 500 to 750 signals just for one article. We'll put a link that ties it right to the Google My Business page. We'll put a link and tie it to the Contact Us page. The social links get tied in to the social platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and so on. Here's some results of the client August last month. Google My Business, 69 calls. Organic search, 16. That's a lot of calls. And to think, we have a lot of clients paying $5,000 a month on Google Ads. So when you get 69 calls, like almost half of your calls are coming from the Google My Business section, like that's a lot of calls. And so it's those little things that you do to help improve the calls. So this is kind of nice spelling error there. That's what happens when you do things in the last minute. So website, on-page, we talked about doing on-page stuff. Like city pages is a whole topic in and of itself. I could spend like half an hour on that. I'm not going to. Google My Business listings. We talked a lot about that. So claiming it, optimizing it, 100% profile, pictures, description, photos, going to the aggregators, fixing your listings, going for your niche citations, driving reviews there, and adding citations on an ongoing basis, blogging, high quality content, expertise, authority, trustworthiness, and leveraging signals. So I like putting the maps in there too. We embed a Google Maps section as well. So we covered a lot. Now, internet marketing is a lot of little details. It's paying attention to details, and it's knowing what works. If anyone's interested in like a free analysis, we can look at your online visibility, your important keywords, ranking report, online directories. We could show you where you're at with an address, phone number. Like I guarantee we're going to find some listings that are not accurate, that will have a wrong phone number or a different address. What your social presence is, and then we have a checklist for websites so that they're optimized for conversion. We can clearly run a report on that, and then go over it with you and explain, what the most important areas are for you to focus to get more leads so you can grow your business. All right, I'll give a minute or two in case there's a question. I'm going to ask you to text me. My cell number is 630-779-2552 if you have a question.